Dive industry red flags fly under the radar all the time, especially when you're in vacation mode. But how can you spot this early on? Between Aaron and I, we have over a decade of experience working as dive professionals in the Maldives, Indonesia, Australia and Thailand, and we've seen the best and the worst in industry standards. So today we're revealing the full process we use to pick quality dive centres, weed out the bad ones and maximise our safety, along with 25 major red flags that will tell you exactly what to avoid from the first Google search to the final safety stop. Let's get into it. Every trip starts with research, and don't just go for the first shop you find with a 5-star review, and we'll tell you why in a bit. Social media and websites are a good place to start. We're not necessarily looking for thousands of followers. More importantly, is the website up to date? Are they actively marketing? And are they diving regularly? Quiet and exclusive spots are one thing, but a barely active dive centre with an out-of-date website and no social media presence is a bit of a red flag for us. Clear and recent photos of their boats on social media is a good sign. We're not just looking for space and comfort. The condition of the boat is one of our biggest indicators for operator standards. If they don't want their vessels on display, it can be a huge red flag for a low quality operation with poor maintenance and neglect. We prioritise shops that have a clear pricing and package list on the website. Hidden costs and no clear pricing are the next red flag that will tell us to swiftly move on. Next, we check the reviews, but take them with a pinch of salt because some shops even offer incentives for 5-star reviews. Instead, look for the reviews that mention rental gear standards and guide to diver ratios. We look for places with a 4:1 maximum ratio. A buzzing, active dive shop with a good vibe is one thing, but being lumped in with 40 other divers is a dive factory. And the dive factory filter is one of the major red flags that tells us that they're more interested in profit than the guest experience. Next, we'll send out a few emails or DMs to our shortlist. We like to ask if they cater to self-sufficient divers and whether their dive sites are flexible or scheduled. We're looking for responsiveness and in-depth knowledge about the dive sites, seasons, marine life and reef health. If they can't answer simple questions or be transparent about expectations, well, that's another red flag for us. This next one might come as a shock, but not every dive centre is a licensed dive centre using certified guides. This can be the case especially in remote locations, so always double check that they're affiliated with a dive agency like PADI or SSI. If a dive shop is dirt cheap compared to the local average, they're almost certainly cutting corners. It's unlikely a dive centre like this will know what to do in an emergency, and should you require it, your dive insurance will become invalid. So, diving with unlicensed operators is a life-threatening red flag and a big no from us. Okay, so you've arrived at the dive centre and you're going through the check-in procedure. Here are the crucial things you should be looking out for that often fly under the radar. The very first thing is boring but essential, and that is the paperwork. A professional shop will check your certification, your number of dives, your last dive date, and your departure flight date. They should also record your insurance details if you have your own, or tell you how you're covered under theirs if you don't. You should always be required to fill out the standard medical disclaimer, either on paper or digitally. This is non-negotiable. If any of this is missing, or a shop encourages you to just tick no or lie on your medical history, they are asking you to invalidate your insurance and risk your life just to fill the boat. This is a massive red flag. Furthermore, a professional operation will suggest you to do a reactivate or refresh course if you haven't dived in the last 6 months or more, especially if you're a new or inexperienced diver. If they skip this and just assume you're fine just to get you on the boat faster and sell more trips, they are prioritising convenience over the safety of everyone in the group. That's another massive red flag. Pay attention to the general upkeep at the front of house. You wouldn't eat at a restaurant that looks like a total mess, so why should a dive centre be any different? Because if they don't care about the part you can see, imagine what's hidden around the back. Poor presentation signals a lack of care, which can be another red flag for us. Now, here's something a lot of people miss. From the outside perspective, diving often looks like the dream job. But sometimes the reality of the industry is less glamorous. If team members are unhappy, complaining, or overworked, it can be a sign of a poorly managed operation. This matters to you, and not just for your enjoyment and good vibes on the boat, because a fed up and exhausted team is a red flag for your safety. We want to dive with people who are just as passionate and excited about the underwater world as we are. So we're looking for a good balance of professionalism and friendliness. When sizing rental gear, you should never be rushed. You need to feel comfortable in the gear. Rental gear should be clean, sanitized, and in good working condition. If you want to change a wetsuit that doesn't fit or swap out a mouthpiece that's broken, you shouldn't be made to feel like you are fussy or a nuisance. And if you have your own equipment, they should handle it with care. We've never understood the mentality of throwing other people's expensive dive gear around like a rag doll. But this happens a lot, unfortunately. Ideally, we prefer a dedicated, labelled and secure crate for our gear to make sure it doesn't get trampled or mixed up. You should be able to leave your gear at the shop in confidence that none of it is going missing or getting broken. Shoddy rental gear and lack of respect for personal gear are two massive red flags that signal neglect. Right, so you've made it as far as the boat. This is where things get serious. Every dive trip should start with a thorough boat briefing which addresses the entire group. We're amazed by how many trips we've been on that skip this. This is essential because every boat is different. This briefing should explain who is in charge, the schedule for the day, the boat layout, any hazards on the boat, and crucially, the location of the emergency oxygen, the first aid kit, and the emergency procedures. And of course, everyone should receive a thorough dive briefing specific to each dive site. This should include your max depth, max time, topography and current, hand signals, entry and exit procedures, and emergency protocols. If either of these briefings are skipped or unclear, that is a major red flag, and you should definitely ask questions about what's been missed. Set up and check your equipment as early as you can. Also check the service dates imprinted on the cylinders if you remember how to locate these. Smell your air too. Lots of people skip this. If it smells foul like oil or metal or tastes bad, it's bad air. Report it and do not use it. If you're diving on Nitrox, you need to personally witness the analysis and sign off on the percentage of O2 on every tank. If the shop analyses it for you and just gives you the number without you witnessing it or signing for it, that is another huge red flag. Listen for eco policies within the briefing. Many shops boast green credentials on their websites, but disregard this in practice. If they're using plastic water bottles on board and throwing food waste in the ocean, it's a big red flag. It tells you that their green claims are just a marketing spiel that nobody is monitoring. As mentioned earlier, we look for a maximum 4:1 diver to guide ratio. If you see massive groups herded together or mismatched experience levels, like open water divers on deep or high current advanced sites, they're neglecting standards and compromising your experience. Overcrowded and mismatched groups are a big no from us and a red flag for diver safety. It's a big confidence booster to see a dive crew that is organised, helpful to guests and attentive to gear storage. Extra points awarded for good hospitality like great banter and service. It's not just about service though, it shows that the crew are aware and on the ball. If the deck is a messy hazard zone of loose tanks and unfastened gear, or if the crew is lazing around the boat instead of helping you with your equipment, it's a red flag that they haven't been trained properly and aren't paying enough attention. It means they're probably not going to react quickly to an emergency. In current heavy destinations, the guide should be doing a proper current check before the dive. This usually means entering the water at the dive site in snorkel gear to properly assess the direction and strength of the current. It has a big effect on the safety and enjoyment of your dive. It's not always enough just to look at the water from the surface, and we were amazed to see this being skipped on some of our recent trips. It's a big and dangerous red flag for us. Next, we have the main event. Whether you're on a liveaboard or day trips, the first dive should always be a check dive. Think of this as a warm-up. You wouldn't go into the gym and immediately pick up the biggest dumbbells possible. It makes perfect sense to start with a dive that's a bit more easygoing and isn't too deep or current heavy. It allows you to test out your gear, your weights, and get used to the procedures before getting to the real dives. Even for us, after thousands of dives, we don't like jumping straight into crazy currents and deep dives if we've been out of the water for a while. We're especially cautious if it's a new location or we're on a boat that's unfamiliar. It's shocking how many dive shops we've been to that skip this just because they think we're experienced. It's a major red flag for us. A professional dive centre will never encourage you to exceed your depth or certification limits unless you're actually doing a course, and they should always respect your personal comfort levels. This applies to training too. If you feel rushed through underwater skills or cheated out of classroom time, it means that the shop is a factory that's not focused enough on quality. So, any deliberate rule breaking, rushing, or boundary pushing is an immediate red flag for us. Underwater, guides should be able to maximise dive time by using depth management to compensate for high air consumption. And groups should ideally be matched for their air consumption rates where possible. Nobody wants to be lumped in with the air hog. Sorry if that's you. Believe it or not, we've seen guides sharing their air with divers who are low on air just to avoid ending the dive. Air sharing is a training exercise and an emergency procedure, not a convenience tool. So, if your guide uses air sharing to extend the dive every time instead of managing the dive properly, it's another safety red flag that has disaster written all over it. Now, let's talk about touching and harassing marine life underwater. This is a big one, and it's something we see and hear about far too often. Guides and instructors should be setting the best example and highest standards for marine and environmental practices. This means zero touching or harassing marine life and perfect buoyancy control. It also means following and enforcing local standards, such as not allowing gloves underwater wherever that's the case. We've seen too many guides turning a blind eye to divers crashing into coral and chasing marine life just to get the cool shot, often in the hope of receiving a tip or a good review. Guides should always prioritise the reef and marine life, even if that means upsetting a guest that cannot dive safely or consciously. All divers agree to follow the rules of safety and environmental practices when signing up for any trip. So, failure to adhere to this is a violation of this agreement. Guides that allow guests to get away with this kind of bad behaviour is one of our biggest red flags in this industry, and it's killing reefs worldwide. Ever been on a dive that's ended up being nothing like the plan that was outlined in the briefing? Constant up and down profiles and high exertion are some of the main factors that increase the risk of decompression sickness. Guides should go at a comfortable pace and check on guests constantly throughout the dive. And a dive should always follow the plan that was outlined in the briefing unless there's an emergency. So, if your guide is zigzagging and yo-yoing all over the place without explanation, it's a bit of a red flag that you need to pay close attention to your own dive profile. At the end of a dive, the group should ideally ascend together, and we expect guides to deploy an SMB at the end of every dive, unless circumstances explicitly do not require it. But laziness is certainly not an excuse. A guide that thinks it's okay to use a purge regulator as a surfacing signal at the end of every dive is a massive red flag that compromises everyone's safety within the group. Lastly, we want to mention one serious issue. that's been entering the conversation recently within the dive community. Any non-consensual or unnecessary touching underwater is completely unacceptable. A pro instructor will brief you on exactly where and why they need to adjust you or your gear. And sometimes they may need to grab you to stop you from ascending or descending uncontrollably. But if anything feels inappropriate or makes you feel uncomfortable, that is the ultimate red flag. Report it to management, and if they turn a blind eye, report it to the Dive Centre Training Agency. That means PADI or SSI or whomever your course is associated with. It's a very rare occurrence, but unfortunately it has come to light in some places. At the end of the day, you are the biggest authority on your safety. The dive industry is an incredible world, but it is under pressure. Some operators out there are cutting costs and they're counting on your ignorance to lower the bar. We hope that by using this guide, you aren't just protecting your next $5,000 trip, you are protecting your life. Self-awareness, respect for the ocean, and the integrity to call a dive when the vibes are off are the most important pieces of gear you'll ever own. Let us know in the comments what's the biggest red flag you've ever spotted on a dive trip. We'd love to hear from fellow dive pros too. What's the worst things you've ever seen? We've left links below to the specific safety gear we use and recommend. Some of those are affiliate links which help support the channel at no additional cost to you, and we really appreciate the support. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, give it a like, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you underwater.